control cards that includes Pack Rat ×4 and Blood Baron ×4. And interestingly, Adam Jansen said, yeah, Raymond Perez, Ray is playing against Shaheen Surani. We're going to see what Shaheen Surani says to 4 Ashioks now.
So did that match actually happen?
Oh, yeah, and Ray won.
Ray apparently won. Well, I'd like to get Shaheen's take on that match. But we're underway, and both players have led things off with a Scryland. Temple of Silence for Harry, Temple of Deceit for Ray Perez, and Pack Rat on turn 2.
In many ways, Raymond Perez's deck here, designed by Adam Jansen primarily. Adam has been tearing it up with deck building lately. It's very much a mid-range deck. No real true control counter magic things to speak of, but what it does have is a lot of ways to handle the board. 4 Heroes Downfall, 4 Detention Sphere, and then a ton of just point-and-click creature removal, as well as great cards to hold the table. We see, look at this, Ashiok make its first appearance, and it gets land, I think, Supreme Verdict
Looks
there?
like a Supreme Verdict to me. I think, actually, that may be an Azorius Charm, so it might be Azorius Charm, Hallowed Fountain, Supreme Verdict.
Oh, okay.
There's a glare. We're not quite sure.
And you see there Harry Corvese on the left, Raymond Perez on the right. He's playing an entirely new archetype, and he does once again another Ashiok, and it looks like Elspeth, Land, and Jace are revealed from Harry's deck.
This Ashiok is doing some work. I mean, how many Elspeths are available in Harry's deck? Usually just 1 or 2. There are 2, so there's one of them gone.
Now it looks like we're practically laying those across the center. We'll call it dredge style.
Yeah, maybe it would be good to just kind of lay them out so that we can see them, and then they can put them to the side.
Yeah, the ones that are creatures we'll leave visible.
Sure.
We see Jace, the Mind Sculptor. Sorry, not the Mind Sculptor. That would be amazing.
What?
Oh, he's ejected from the tournament. No, my bad. Jace, Architect of Thought, and that summons a Dissolve from Harry Corvese's hand. Now, one of the things you're going to see happening in this matchup, because Raymond's deck is much more of a mid-range deck, you're going to see him in this opponent, with his opponent being such a control deck, putting out threat after threat after threat. That's going to be his plan, is to keep threatening Harry with things that matter.
Yeah, he's going to sort of try to overload the control elements of Harry's deck. As you can see, Harry had to use a Dissolve on the Jace, and now he's going to use a Hero's Downfall on the Ashiok.
And Raymond Perez wants a 5th land. There it is. Takes 2 life for that in order to play it. Is this going to be a Blood Baron? There it is, a Blood Baron. And we see an Azorius Charm from Harry Corvese. Harry's answers to a Blood Baron include 4 Supreme Verdicts, 2 Elspeth Sun's Champion, 1 of which is gone, 1 Merciless Eviction, and 1 Aetherling.
So he does have some answers. He does have a Supreme Verdict in hand to deal with the Blood Baron, and that is exactly what he does. So the board is once again clear. Scryland from Ray and Ashiok number 2. Now there are 4 main deck Ashioks, so he's not going to have a problem replacing Ashioks.
And there's no creatures in that Ashiok that's been revealed. We see a Sphinx's Revelation in Harry's hand. He passes the turn. Now, one of the things that's also very dangerous about Raymond Perez's deck, for a deck, and that was a land spell, for a deck like Harry Corvese's, Raymond Perez has no counter magic, but you know what? He sure looks like a deck with counter magic.
Absolutely. It's that sort of rogue strategy. It's misdirection. Actually, if you read Brian Kibler's article this week, just yesterday, he talks a little bit about misdirection, and you make it look like, you know, your mana base and some of the spells you cast look like you're a certain kind of deck, so people play as if you are that deck. So many people probably playing against Raymond Perez all day long as if he's going to counter a spell.
Yeah, if you want more on that, there's Brian Kibler's article, not to mention the Sun Tzu book, The Art of War.
Yes. Recently published.
If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with the one and only Joey Pasco. Harry Corvese on the left with Esper Control. Raymond Perez with a mid-range Esper Planeswalkers list. We're seeing Detention Sphere to take out Pack Rat. Ray, you might wonder, why doesn't he make another Pack Rat? Well, because it's called Pack Rat, and all of the rats would go away. Wow, look at that. Ashiok now at 9 loyalty again. There's only one creature in Harry Corvese's deck, one Aetherling, but you know what? There is an ultimate ability on Ashiok, and it's pretty heavy.
All right, so it looks like Raymond tries to resolve an Elspeth. It gets dissolved from Harry Corvese. So far, Harry's done a pretty good job of keeping up with all the threats that Ray has been presenting, with the exception of Ashiok number 2, which one of the big criticisms of Ashiok is that it can sort of be ignored for a little while. And, that's... we saw earlier Harry did take out the first Ashiok, second Ashiok. He's sort of ignoring it a little bit at this point.
He can't ignore it forever. In 2
That's right.
turns, it can ultimate. Now, you can see he's contemplating casting a Aetherling here, his only Aetherling, tapping out completely.
Yeah, that's a scary thing because although your opponent has shields down as far as counterspells, and of course we know he's always got shields down as far as counterspells, he does have the mana to cast targeted removal, and we know he does have 4 Heroes Downfall, 4 Detention Sphere, 2 Doomblade, 1 Ultimate Price, 2 Far Away, all of which could deal with an Aetherling if Harry plays it naked with no mana up to protect it. So that's if I'm Harry, I think you can't, I don't think with just one Aetherling you can be that brazen about dropping it onto the table.
I mean, you still have to worry about that Ashiok, though.
Yes.
I mean, this is really dangerous if he just lets that sit. You know what? I might just do it. I might just say, you know what? I'll win with an Elspeth. Okay, he goes with Jace.
So I like this play better. It is a little more conservative. It still leaves the Ashiok on the table, but it still will likely give him the opportunity to find an answer to Ashiok and another land. And that's exactly what he finds. 2 lands and a Detention Sphere. So he's going to be able to he's going to use that Detention Sphere likely to take out the Ashiok.
Next turn,
next turn, right. So he does have an answer.
This is the moment where Raymond Perez, lack of counter magic could be very frustrating for him. Does he have a Thoughtseize? Otherwise, what's going to happen is we're going to see Detention Sphere take out Ashiok.
Perez is going to take a peek at his graveyard. Actually, I think it was Harry's graveyard that he's looking at. Ashiok ticks up. May have been he was taking a look at what has been exiled by the Ashiok. And a Hero's Downfall on Jace, Architect of Thought, will keep Harry from being able to draw 2 more cards or get that Jace going.
And we're going to see Detention Sphere now.
I think we may actually see Hero's Downfall because that was what Harry ripped off the top there. So he's got 2 choices. He could Detention Sphere the Ashiok. He could Hero's Downfall the Ashiok. Sphere, being the sorcery speed answer, looks like that's what he's going to go with. He's going to save that Hero's Downfall for something else. But either one's a great answer.
Raymond Perez draws, says go.
Yeah, that's it. So Harry untaps. He's got a couple of Sphinx's Revelations in hand. He still cannot find that 7th land, so I imagine we're going to see a Sphinx for 3 here, and that's exactly what we see at the end of Ray's turn after he passes.
Yeah, Ray says that's fine. There's one thing. I don't know if I am being biased by my knowledge of the deck list that Raymond is playing, but I feel like he's playing like a player that doesn't have counter magic. I feel like he might be giving up the ghost soon.
By not hesitating and then saying, okay,
yeah,
something like that.
Having his hands down. Also, I've played against Ray before, mostly for fun, and I've seen him play. He's somebody that plays a lot of control decks with counter magic, and I'm used to seeing him looking at his hand. Here we go. Another Jace. How's that sound? And Ray says right away, that's fine. I think that we're seeing Harry Corvese turn the corner here.
Yeah, finds a Sphinx's Revelation and 2 lands. He's going to actually take the 2 lands, knowing that he already has 1 Sphinx's Revelation already in hand. So Harry's hand is stocked. He's got a Dissolve, he's got a Sphinx's Revelation, he's got a couple of lands, he's got an Aetherling, he's got a Supreme Verdict, he's still got a Hero's Downfall, and if I'm not mistaken, he has got another Detention Sphere as well.
Now we see one of the issues with what Raymond Perez is dealing with here. Not very many threats, to be fair. 4 Pack Rats, 4 Blood Baron, 2 Elspeth as ways to actively finish the game off. 4 Jace, 4 Ashiok, as ways to slowly try to get there, but without counter magic, he can't say no to anything that Harry does.
Yeah, it's just a preemptive no with something like Thoughtseize. Other than that, he needs to answer everything once it's on the table. And that's what he's going to do here with the Detention Sphere to answer the Jace Architect of Thought. Harry says, all right, Detention Sphere resolves. I've got some cards off Jace already. I'll let you go ahead and exile it with the Detention Sphere. Ray passes back to Harry. So Harry can play an Aetherling here if he'd like and still have mana to protect it.
Now this deck recently brewed. It was literally brewed last night in the hotel room of Raymond Perez Jr. and Adam Jansen. Thoughtseize. Let's see what you got. He's like, I've got this Hero's Downfall and 2 lands.
How about I pick? That's what Ray says. So yeah, 2 lands, Hero's Downfall. Down goes the Downfall. And Harry is free and clear to kind of start presenting a threat. Now, he could play the Aetherling here. It would be a naked Aetherling, unprotected. He would have to count on the top of Ray's deck not giving him a way to deal with the Aetherling or a way to find an answer to the Aetherling. So he could be more conservative if you'd like. He is a control deck. I don't see any reason why he needs to rush into it, and that's the conclusion he comes to as well.
Whoa.
Passes back with 6 mana up and a Dissolve in hand. Off the top from Ray Perez is a Jace Architect of Thought, so very likely he tries to resolve that here. It will probably meet a Dissolve. Yeah, here comes Jace. And Harry says, well, he's thinking about it. He
so
does
many things. He's got a Hero's Downfall.
Right.
I mean, the Hero's Downfall answer, though, does mean that Ray would be able to activate the -2 ability.
Yeah.
He goes the safe route with the Dissolve.
Yeah, knowing Ray's hand is just 2 lands is pretty good for Harry. So he knows that, you know what, I'll deal with your Jace, and I have perfect information.
Now you might wonder why is Raymond Perez not laying that land? Remember, this is a 4 pack rat deck, so those lands represent rats.
Yeah, very, very good point. So Aetherling finally joins the party on the side of Harry Corvese. He's got 2 untapped lands, both blue sources to protect the Aetherling should Raymond find an answer. Doesn't appear that Ray has an answer, and it looks like he's about to pass. So, he was thinking about his Scry land, and now he passes.
Things that are pretty rough in this game. Aetherling. How do you answer an Aetherling? And the answer for Raymond Perez Jr. is basically just die in 2 turns.
Yeah.
Let's pretend that he were to be able to draw a Jace. He could lay a Jace. He could use the Factor Fiction, the -2 ability of the Jace, and find an answer to fog the Aetherling for a turn, and then somehow manage to keep running into more fogs. That's about it.
Yeah. So Aetherling crashes in for what looks like the full amount. And either way, Perez cannot find an answer. Scoops him up to Harry Corvese. Esper Control besting Esper Planeswalkers in Game 1 here of Round 9.
Now, Raymond Perez has 10 cards in his sideboard that he can bring in. That is a lot of cards. He can bring in 3 Sin Collector, 1 Thoughtseize, 2 Gainsay, 2 Negate, 2 Glare of Heresy as easy sideboards in.
Yeah.
And I bet you he can find room in his cards there for those 10, probably starting with his Doomblade's Ultimate Prices and Faraways. And after that, he'll have to figure out what he wants to cut. Perhaps cutting into those Blood Barons, maybe not. It's a hard call sometimes. And Harry Corvese, on the other hand, only 5 cards that are particularly useful in this matchup. Gainsay, Negate, and Thoughtseize as the big ones, and a second Aetherling in the sideboard as well.
Yeah, quite a bit for Perez to have in here against the control deck.
Now, if Harry Corvese has realized that Raymond Perez Jr. is not running a traditional Esper deck, his Blood Barons of Vizkopa in the sideboard are actually pretty good. There are very few ways for Raymond's deck to be able to answer that. He's got 2 Elspeth, and Raymond probably does not want to board in his other answer, which is Supreme Verdict. That does not feel like a great card in this matchup. Now, the question is, does Harry know what Raymond's doing? You can see Raymond there on the left, big smiles all around. He's wearing his Brainstorm Brewery t-shirt, just back from Pro Tour Dublin not so long ago, about 2 weeks
Couple
now.
of weeks ago, yeah.
And he had a great first showing. That was his first Pro Tour. And I was at the PTQ where he won, and he was excited beyond belief to qualify for Dublin. Everyone's pumped about qualifying for the Pro Tour. Everyone wants to do so. He's been putting in a lot of time, a lot of effort. Finally made it, and then had a great showing. So he's going to be invited to the next Pro Tour as well.
That's awesome. So what do you think? Apparently you talked to these guys earlier today. You knew about this deck.
Yeah.
Coming into this match. What's the logic here? What are they thinking? Why do they feel like this build is a better choice than Esper Control beyond the misdirection factor that we mentioned?
Well, one of the things, Esper Planeswalkers, as it's built by Adam Jansen and Raymond Perez, they decided to get rid of all of the counter magic things in the deck and instead focus on cards that are good for the black matchup. They are basically tuned with a ton of cards that are hard for the mono black deck that we've been seeing doing so well to deal with. 4 Pack Rats mean that you have to immediately answer the Pack Rat, or else the Pack Rat can get out of control in the black matchup. 4 Blood Barons of Viscopa in the main. Again, very difficult for the black deck to handle. And then, other than that, having the 4 Heroes Downfall, 4 Detention Sphere, as well as Far Away. They basically are gunning entirely for 2 decks, the Black Devotion and the Blue Devotion, and saying to the rest of the field, we'll be fine against you, I guess, and counting on a lot of people misidentifying them as a traditional counterspell control deck, where they have 0 counterspells in the main.
So looking at Ray's main deck, the main differences that I'm seeing is he basically, you take an Esper Control deck and you go, all right, cut the Azorius Charms, cut the Supreme Verdicts, cut the counterspells. In their place, we're going to run 4 Pack Rat, 4 Blood Barons. Of course, some Esper lists running 1 to 2 Blood Barons main, but 4 Pack Rats, 4 Blood Barons, and 4 Ashiok. But otherwise, tell me, 4 Jace, 2 Elspeth, 4 Heroes Downfall, 4 Detention Sphere, 3 Thoughtseize, 2 Doomblade, 1 Ultimate Price, 2 Far Away. Those cards are all common to Esper Control deck. So essentially, instead of counterspells and Azorius Charms and Supreme Verdicts, it's threats.
If you want to think about it along the kind of a strategic archetype sense, they've shifted away from being a control deck to being a mid-range control deck. And they're concerned with dropping stuff on the table and controlling the table. So if they went even further down this path, they would probably turn into a very, very different deck. But as they have it built right now, the basic plan that they have for this is to put relevant cards onto the table and blow up the cards that the opponent has that matters. Now compare that to Harry Corvese, who's playing a traditional Esper Control deck, which means we're seeing cards like Sphinx's Revelation, we're seeing cards like Dissolve as a part of this. He even has Syncopate. And in general, that's a deck that is far more concerned with card advantage, and Raymond Perez's deck far more concerned with putting things on the table that matter.
Sphinx's Revelation, the other card that they cut to make room for, say, the second or the 3rd and 4th Detention Sphere and the 4th Heroes Downfall and the 3rd Thoughtseize over the traditional Esper decks that kind of don't usually pack all 4 of all 3 of those cards.
We see the Pack Rat once again from Raymond Perez. Harry Corvese on the left, Raymond Perez on the right. These decks look very similar until you actually open up the contents and see no counterspells on the right, but after sideboarding, things change quite a bit. Now we see a Thoughtseize from Harry Corvese.
Sin Collector, Watery Grave, Elspeth, and a Thoughtseize. Wow.
That
3 ways to tear apart Harry's hand.
That's some hate.
Yeah. So Harry now faced with the difficult choice. I mean, you have the redundancy of targeted discard and an Elspeth. So he's going to go ahead and take the Thoughtseize first. Very possible that we see a Sin Collector here next turn, so we can get a peek at Harry's hand. I love when they do
Raymond Perez, such a nice guy here, leaves his hand revealed.
And there you see that Sin Collector, and we're going to take a peek at Harry's hand. We've got Sphinx's Revelation, Negate, and Pithing Needle.
That is a very good hand to have Sin Collectors against. We see, was that 1 Sphinx that went away?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so he's got a Sphinx's Revelation, a Negate, and a Pithing Needle. Look at this. Harry Corvese returns the favor.
Yeah, it's doing us quite a favor, too, being able to see their hands. I really appreciate that. So Pithing Needle is the play. What do you think he named?
I bet you it's a pack rat.
That's probably the case.
And we see another Sin Collector, and goodbye Sphinx's Revelation, and hello another land.
And indication of the pack rat there. I'm not sure if that was a response to about the Pithing Needle or what.
No, that was just he was attacking. This guy's coming in.
Okay, he's just poking it. So double Sin Collector, pack rat, all swinging into the red zone here for Raymond, trying to even things up here against Harry Corvese, and he's making a very good race of it. Harry down to 7. Pack rat still a fairly good attacker, even if it can't make more pack rats. Actually, it's not really a good attacker, but it is when your opponent can't do anything about it.
Okay.
Still does damage, I guess is what I'm saying.
And these players, if you're wondering why they've got a Negate revealed and all of that, it's because they're being very nice people, and they are keeping their known cards revealed so they don't have to write things down.
So a Detention Sphere from Harry is going to deal with those Sin Collectors to kind of stop the bleeding a bit. And Jace, Architect of Thought, comes down for Raymond, and it looks like land. It's Scryland, Shockland, Basic Land, and Harry separates the. Looks like he's going to separate the Scryland from the other two. And
Raymond takes the 2.
Raymond takes the 2, yeah.
Lays 1 immediately, leaves the other one revealed. I love Nice Guy Magic.
Me too. I think all Magic should be Nice Guy Magic.
And we see another land, a Plains from Harry Corvese. That's the 6th mana. He's trying to decide, do I put something down on the table? Does he have a card in his hand? Like, let's say, perhaps an Aetherling or something that might not be a great thing to drop on 6? I mean, he's under a lot of pressure here. It's only 1 pack rat, but he's at 6 life. Says go.
Yeah, I mean, he was under a lot of pressure. Being able to rip that Detention Sphere to deal with the Sin Collectors was huge, but yeah, he's still on a relatively short clock for a control deck. 5 turns can go by very quickly in a control deck. So.
Oh, wow, look at that.
So Jace goes away, gives Raymond access to Pack Rat and Sin Collector. He gets both of those. He's going to play the Sin Collector.
What's the other card?
Harry
He
loses
wants to
Negate,
know.
and Blood Baron is the other card, the lone card left in Harry's hand. After that, Sin Collector takes the Negate.
Yeah, and Harry just wanted to leave up Negate mana last turn rather than let the Elspeth come down. And no matter what, the problem is still there. He needs to clear that Elspeth out of there. He can't just drop his Blood Baron, because then what will happen is
Elspeth will just answer
it.
There.
Oh, Pithing Needle naming Elspeth Sun's champion. Now did he just turn the game around?
That was a nice rip.
That was a nice rip. In terms of answers for Pithing Needle, Raymond Perez has the access to Detention Sphere as an answer to Pithing Needle, which would be just incredible in this situation.
Ashiok is
boy.
the play from Raymond Perez. He says, all right, you neuter one of my Planeswalkers. I will play another. Harry draws for the turn. Looks like he's got something.
Jace?
Maybe it's a Jace. It is
there
a Jace.
It is.
Jace, Architect of Thought, meets Negate from Raymond Perez.
Ouch.
Surprise, counterspell.
Oh, attack the Ashiok. And remember, the lifelink brings Harry Corvese up to 9.
So he's going to take a hit right back down to 4, and that's going to be an even trade for life. So he goes up to 9. He's going to go back down to 5.
And off to the side, I'm not quite sure what cards were removed there by the Ashiok. 4 damage coming, 6 damage coming on back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Pack
Yeah,
rats
you're right.
are both 2/2s now.
You're right. I was looking at them as 1/1s because they were 1/1s before. You're absolutely right. Yeah, so the pack rats doing double duty despite having a Pithing Needle naming pack rat.
Okay, interesting here. He lays the Elspeth down, and just to put it down.
Yeah, it can't do anything. It just stays on 4 counters. So Harry at 3. He's going to have to leave back that Blood Baron because he's going to need the block.
What do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. Is that going to be another Jace?
Looks like Jace is the
minus
play.
2. Is that a glare?
It is a glare of heresy.
Double glare
and
of
another
heresy.
glare of heresy. So that might do it.
Well, what is
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry. I switched.
Those cards are removed.
Yes.
The detention sphere that you see underneath the Ashiok, that is a card that's been removed from the game.
Yeah, sorry, that got a little confusing there. Based on where the cards are placed on the board. So Harry passes the turn, just leaving the Blood Baron back.
I mean, his life total is so low right now. And Jace cashes it in. What has he got? Detention Sphere. Oh, my goodness.
And Godless Shrine. So Detention Sphere split off to the side.
Wow. He takes the sphere.
He's going to take the sphere.
He's going to try to do it.
And, yeah, he says, I'm going to cast Detention Sphere.
That is it.
So Raymond Perez evens things up at a game apiece here in round 9 of 10 of the Standard Open here in Indianapolis. These guys both at 7-1 coming into this round, both with Esper decks, but Raymond Perez calling on the power of the Rogue deck. The you don't know what to expect out of my deck kind of
right
plan.
Well, I've long been a fan of rogue strategies, and one of the things that you can really get accomplished with a rogue strategy is that you can have your opponents behave in ways that don't actually fit what your deck is doing. They're responding to something else, or if it's particularly alien looking, just having no idea what to do.
Right.
It's almost better to, in that sort of sense, to be camouflaged and look like something that already exists, because sometimes people will behave in a very different way. Raymond Perez's deck here, designed in conjunction with Adam Jansen. These two players playing it in the Open Series. They were both in the Invitational. Both did not do very well with the Esper Control deck that they had, something much closer to Harry Corvese's deck, and they spent the night brewing and they came up with this. Is this going to be a new player, or is this going to be a flash in the pan? It doesn't have some of the very powerful cards. Sphinx's Revelation, one of the key cards in the Esper-style decks. Is that going to be a big loss for them?
Yeah, I mean, watching this matchup so far, I'm still not convinced. Maybe that's just my bias. I mean, I want to play Sphinx's Revelation if I'm playing blue and white, and Revelation is legal. I would like to play it.
And Raymond Perez here, yellow sleeves, Harry Corvese in the black sleeves. They're going to come out fighting, see who comes out on top. Only one of these players can win. They both have excellent records. This is a 10-round event.
Yes.
If either of these players win, barring some problems on tiebreakers, it's possible they could draw into the next round, or into the top 8.
Just a side update from Shaheen Surani. We were trying to have him featured here, and I guess it's possible that we still will. He is currently 6-2. Not quite sure what's going on in his match, but he brought an interesting take on blue-white control this weekend. You see Ray taking Esper in a different direction. Shaheen, and if you've been reading his articles, you shouldn't be surprised at all. He takes blue-white and says, rather than going with Esper control, which you'd expect out of Shaheen Surani, he goes with blue-red-white control, or blue-white-red, I guess would be the more appropriate way of ordering it. But yeah. And I think yesterday he said he had, for the Invitational, he wasn't happy with his mana base. He fixed that up for the Open and doing fairly well in the Open at 6-2.
Yeah, I played him a few games with the red deck I had played at Milwaukee, and he just beat me silly.
Wow. When was this?
I try to play as much Magic between rounds when I'm on break as possible.
This was today then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. I wish I had seen that. I want to see his deck in action, and I guess I was probably doing commentary while you were on break.
Yeah, well, while we were on break this last time, I was playing Stompy on Magic Online, but the previous break before that, I was playing against Shaheen Surani for fun. Now, Shaheen Sarani played against Raymond Perez last round, and Raymond Perez defeated him. Adam Jansen said, "How's that, Ashiok, for you?"
And we're underway, both players leading on a Temple of Deceit. Harry Corvese on the play has a second land in the form of a Plains, as does Ray Perez. And Packrat is the turn 2 play.
Wow, I mean, Raymond Perez casts turn 2 Packrat every game this match. It's been very, very dangerous for Harry Corvese. Untapped. Now, remember, Raymond Perez has no counterspells main deck, but after sideboarding, has access to counterspells and very strong discard spells.
Packrat going to swing in here for 1 and connects. Harry draws for the turn. It was a Jace, Architect of Thought. He's going to play a Godless Shrine, untapped, so he's going to take some damage. Play that Jace, and Ray Perez has the negate in hand for that Jace. So
he says no, sir.
He's got the pressure, and he's got a card to interact with Harry's game plan as well. So
in with the Packrat once again. One of the things I love about Packrat in decks that have counterspells, you get to pretend with one card like you are the entire Counter Sliver deck. You're kind of like a Aether Viling Merfolk deck. You keep on putting a Lord into play every turn.
Yeah.
And here we see another Jace. Does this one work?
So Jace number 2 is going to resolve, and Harry's going to tick it up and try to find some cards. He gets Pithing Needle, Sphinx's Revelation, and Temple of Silence as the 3 to split.
Lots of ways to split this. I mean, that Needle is such a great card to respond to the Rat with. There he goes. 1 Needle or the land and a Sphinx's Revelation. Very tempting for Harry to take, but the Needle, a great answer to the Rat.
Yeah, it basically is one of those, it's the decision between now or later.
Yeah,
right?
Now remember, if Harry takes the Needle, though, Raymond can, end of Harry's turn, make a Rat and have 4 power that he'll be playing with. Harry puts the Needle, as good as it is against the Rat, on the bottom. He wants to have the land, he wants to have the Sphinx's Rev, and I believe he's already laid a land this turn, so he passes the turn. And we see a discard here. Goodbye, Elspeth. Wow.
So Raymond Perez clearly playing for the now with his Packrat, discarding his 6-mana bomb. And Harry playing for the late game, taking a Sphinx's Revelation and a land, assuming that he's going to live that long against an onslaught of rats. Yeah, so 2 rats coming in. Harry has played 2 Shocklands untapped already this game, so he's done some work already for Ray Perez.
Now one of those, Lifebane Zombie, interesting.
So Lifebane Zombie not likely to hit, but it provides the information, and it provides a 3-power attacker to add to that force. So we've got Aetherling, we've got, looks like Godless Shrine, Gainsay, Dissolve, Temple of Silence, and Sphinx's Revelation.
And look at this, Harry Corvese, once again, as we said before, the gentleman's game between these 2 players. Neither of them have kept their hand hidden after it was revealed. They're both leaving it revealed just to make it easier. I really love it when that happens. I know that I do this when I'm playtesting for fun, but I don't do this in tournaments.
So on Harry's turn, hasn't played a land yet. He's got the option to play. Yeah, looks like he's going to go ahead and play Godless Shrine untapped. And immediately
nice,
a detention sphere for the Pack Rats. So some answer for the Rats. And that's going to be pretty big.
Look at that. Mana for Dissolve open.
And Lifebane Zombie is going to connect for 3. If I'm Ray Perez, I may just kind of just use this as my, the Lifebane Zombie as my clock and try to just protect it. But
well, he hopefully, for Ray, he has to have the counter magic to make it work.
Yeah, that's the thing here. I'm thinking of it from the perspective of a control deck that that has counter backup. So
now Ray only has 4 counter spells in this matchup.
Yeah, 2 negate, 2 gainsay. He has used 1 negate already. So Harry plays a Scryland and passes back. Lifebane Zombie connects for another 3, knocking Harry to 4. We're all tied up at 1 game apiece. Harry's going to really need to deal with that Lifebane Zombie quickly because It's doing a number on his life total. He does have a Sphinx's Revelation.
Glare of Heresy on the detention sphere. Back comes the rat. Past the turn. The clock is very, very quick. Is that a pair of detention spheres in Raymond Perez's hand?
I believe it is.
Okay, so Harry Corvese can use the Sphinx's Revelation to gain 4 life, maybe more if he's got a land in hand. But here's the question. When you cast your Sphinx's Revelation, he's on the verge of death here.
Right, and casting Aetherling is not an option because Raymond makes another rat at end of turn, and Aetherling can only block 1 creature.
There we go.
And
Blood Baron is a good drop. I was going to say, if he casts the Sphinx's Revelation, he actually still dies because he would have to face another rat, and then during Raymond's turn, he could make another rat, and that would be enough to have killed Harry. He actually needed to draw a Supreme Verdict, a Detention Sphere, or, oh, here he goes. He's going to start it off with one of the rats, or the Blood Baron. That's what he needed exactly.
So right here, Raymond can make 2 more rats. And, I mean,
that would be enough, I think.
That should be enough, yeah, especially considering it's not counterable, right? You just make 2 rats.
That would mean he'd have 4 power, 7 power getting through. Yeah, he sees it. He's going to go all in.
Yeah, everybody in. You know, Blood Baron blocks 1 of the rats. That would put Harry up to 8, and he would take 7, and that's if Raymond doesn't make a rat.
Azorius Charm is what Harry Corvese needs to survive this turn. He's got 1 unknown card.
Yeah, could it be Azorius Charm?
All in, Raymond? Is that what it's going to be? He's thinking about it. Now, right now, those rats are 2/2. They can be made into 4/4s if Raymond goes all in, and that would mean that actually Raymond would knock Harry to 3 because of the lifelink. Is that correct? Yeah. So it wouldn't kill him. It would knock him down, if he did that, down to 3. In this case, it knocks him down exactly. Should be to 5, I believe. Oh my God! And Sphinx's Revelation now. Yeah, that lifelink. Just enough to keep him alive. Detention Sphere. Oh, says it's okay. Harry Corvese looks like he's turning the corner.
Yeah, I'm really surprised Raymond didn't go for it there.
Well, I mean, if we do the math, actually, only 1 of the rats hits for a total of 7 damage. Harry at 4 life plus the 4 lifelink would go exactly to 1.
Even if he made 2 rats?
Yes, exactly to 1. Because 1 of the rats gets blocked, he gets hit for 7, and then he gains the 4 life. That's 8 life minus 7 is 1 life. Barely survives.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
In with Lifebane Zombie, knocking Harry down to 4. Temple of Silence. Raymond Perez here. Almost had his opponent dead there. Detention Sphere and Jace in hand. Says go.
Blood Baron in for another 4. Raymond can't block it even if that Lifebane Zombie were untapped.
And Harry again passes the turn. In for 3. Harry slowly pulling out.
He's slow. He's like he's netting a life a turn based on this race, you know, quote unquote. And he's holding a Sphinx's Revelation. Yeah, and he's going to go for it here. I think, you know, go for it sooner rather than later. You don't want to give your opponent the opportunity to draw into a gainsay or a negate.
And right now, I think he's overpowering. I mean, think of it, over the top moment happening right there, drawing 3 cards, gaining enough life to not be in danger any longer.
Right, leaving 2 up so that he can gainsay any potential counter spells. So he's protecting his Sphinx's Revelation. So up to 8. He can go up to 12 here with the Blood Baron, and he has another Revelation in hand. He's going to be able to chain those So here comes Blood Baron for another 4. Harry's going to go up to 12. He did play a Watery Grave for the turn. And I believe he has a second Blood Baron, and he's going to cast it, it looks like. Yeah, there it is. Oh, he changes his mind. Thinks about it, and I think that's where we're at. Harry at 12 life from a potential 1 at one point. Lifebane Zombie's going to connect, knock Harry to 9. And it's looking like Harry has pulled out of trouble. Raymond Perez trying to figure out what exactly he can do. So he's just going to play a land and pass. I believe his hand is still just land Detention Sphere. And a negate off the top for Harry. He's going to play a Temple of Silence. Take a look. Keeps whatever it is on top. He's going to swing in with the Blood Baron. Pretty sure he gave away the fact that he's holding another Blood Baron by tapping 5 and almost casting it last turn. But I think Harry's kind of like, yeah, you know, I'll just ride this one Blood Baron until you can answer it. I'll keep it safe. So Raymond Perez falls to Harry Corvese and his Esper Control deck on the back of Blood Baron.